Hello and welcome to our review for the new 900 Global Eternity Pi. The Pi releases on September 22nd with Storm's Virtual Energy Blackout. We also have a review up for that one if you're interested in it as well. Before we get started, big shout out and thanks as always to Royal Crest Lanes. They're a big part of bringing these videos to you. All it takes is a text and we have everything we need. Also, my code ROSEDOLL10 will get you 10% off your order at checkout at CoolWick, and if you check the description, you'll find a bunch of helpful links and information, including our personal specs and a link to buy the Pi at Bowler's Mart. I do receive a 5% commission on all sales through the link. There's a bit of mystery with the specs for the Pi. While it has the same mild to medium asymmetric epoch core as the Eternity, Global has undergone a bit of a rebranding lately with the covers and general brand identity to more of a refined, crafted vibe, which I do quite like. However, it makes things a little nebulous when it comes to the cover naming convention, which is more like a sequentially increasing whiskey batch sort of idea, rather than the direct numbered strength rating they used to do, like S70 on the Wolverine, the stronger S77 on the Zen, and then the even stronger S84 on the Reality, etc. Great marketing angle, but it tells us next to nothing about where the cover stock formula fits. You would assume that a 700 series cover would be in a certain zone, the 800 series covers would be up a notch, and then the 900 series covers at the top would be the strongest. But as Storm and Roto have shown us, they've used both ultra-strong covers like Storm's NEX on the Proton Physics and Roto's Microtrax on the Gem, down to fairly clean and weak covers like Storm's R2S on the Astrophysics and Roto's E-Trax on the Rubicon UC2 in their top couple lines, so I don't think it's safe to assume anything, though so far Global has seemed to be more consistent with their cover uses in the different lines. We're using our typical test pattern once again, which is Kegel Chromium. It's a challenge pattern at 42 feet long, 25.5 mils, and just under a 7:1 ratio, so it's on the long and heavy side of medium when it comes to the length of the pattern and the amount of oil, and while it's easier than a sport pattern, it's not as forgiving as a typical league pattern. Angel's layout is the same as always, 4 5/8 by 3.5 by 2.5, and her surface prep is the same as always also, down to 1000 grit with Jayhawk Bowling Supplies Diamond Dust pads on a resurfacing machine, then finish with Storm's Reactive Scuff to get it to a 3000-ish grit sheen. Once again, we always recommend adjusting the surface yourself for a multitude of different reasons. It helps break the ball in faster, it won't always come out of the box at the surface it's supposed to, and even if you like the box surface, you won't ever be able to replicate the surface they can get at the factory with their industrial machinery, so adjusting it yourself lets you know exactly where it's at and helps to personalize it for your game. Take a look at the ball reaction here to see what you see first, and I'll be back with my thoughts in a minute. Getting straight to the point for those that remember, the Eternity Pi is a Storm lock, straight up. It looks like a lock and it acts like a lock. It might be a smidge smoother, but that's splitting hairs. Global has said the cover formula isn't the same as the S84 response that's on the Eternity and Reality. It's still very much a strong cover, but cleaner. I will compare it to the Eternity here in a minute. It's quite clean up front and fairly defined, if not super sharp down lane. What I mean by clean for those still learning bowling lingo is that it's very easy for her to get it down the lane. It's not trying to stop and dig in early. And by defined but not necessarily sharp, I mean that you can see pretty clearly where the ball starts to get traction and hook, but it doesn't really take off after that. It kind of walks up. Usually when balls are defined like this, they react quite a bit more sharply. My initial thought was that Reserve Blend 901 is REX, but it can't be that if that's what's on the gold label at 801. It's definitely not EXO from the DNA, it's not diggy enough to be NEX that we've seen on the Axiom, Proton Physics, and most recently on the Supernova. It seems they've abandoned Traction X7 from the Parallax releases, so my current conclusion is that it's the TX23 cover formula from the Summit. The Summit has the same strong but oddly clean and fairly defined but not exactly sharp ball motion. It's just slower overall due to being symmetric, so I'm going to call it TX23 or a close variant so that we at least have some kind of a reference to go off of. Now, like the Summit, the Pi gave her more mist room inside than outside for sure. She did have some recovery, but not if she got it going too far right too quickly off her hand. She needed to be a little softer with it to give it time to get back up the hill. As another note in reference to the cover, as it lane shined, she moved a couple boards to the right, but it retained the same overall look. It just got a little easier down the lane, so the cover is definitely on the stronger end of the spectrum. Ultimately, this is a great look for her with a little bend right at second arrow or a little deeper, and it does remind her of the Eternity, plus it's not purple, so she's extremely happy. Speaking of the Eternity, here's a few shots to get you up to speed, then we'll get into the comparison. The Eternity does have the same layout and same surface prep, so we can get a good look at exactly how similar or different they are. This one feels fairly simple, quite like the way the Gem and Exotic Gem relate to each other. The Eternity is just a longer and sharper version of the Pi, but they're on top of each other from an overall strength perspective. Again, that makes sense and also helps us place Reserve Blend 901 because the Eternity cover is a known quantity. The Eternity plays a little deeper than the Pi because of the friction response, but this follows a typical progression anyway. The stronger stuff typically plays straighter because its hooking earlier is therefore smoother down lane, and naturally that means it's not going to cover as many boards down lane. Once the stronger stuff begins to get too early or labor, then you start to get deeper with cleaner and sharper stuff that will both get down the lane easier and then be able to make a bigger move on the back end. The shot shapes are extremely similar though. You can tell the two balls are definitely related, so if you do keep surface on the Pi and shine on the Eternity, you'll have a great first ball out of the bag in the Pi and a nice step down with the Eternity. At the same time, you can see that with the same layout and same surface on both balls, the difference is marginal. As much as Angel likes the Eternity, she so far prefers what she's seeing out of the Pi because it rolls like the Eternity, it's just a little more controllable. I'll hopefully have a handful of comparisons coming soon, most notably to the clone as it's in a similar space and has become a favorite of Angel's. Just to save some questions in the comments, we won't be comparing it to the reality though. Angel's reality is long gone and literally every other review out there will be featuring that comparison anyway, so we'll try to shake it up a little. Again, I also have a review up for the Virtual Energy Blackout. Release day for both balls is September 22nd. Down in the description is a link to Bowler's Mart that will get an Eternity or Eternity Pi ordered for you, and of course don't forget my code ROSEDOLL10 to get 10% off your order at checkout at CoolWick. Thanks for watching and may the strikes be with you.